yeah, apart from that, I decided to go with just some standard MR16 downlight fixtures, or gimbals, I guess. I mean, they're handy in that they can actually swivel, so I've got them turned in, tilted inwards a bit just to point down towards the middle of the tornado. I originally had 35 watt halogen bulbs in there, but I decided to switch those out for LEDs just for lower power use, and also I wanted sort of a slightly cooler white. So these are the Philips Master LED. I think they're 7 watts, and they do about 400 to 500 lumens. 400K color temperature at 36 degree beam angle. I did originally want something with a slightly smaller beam angle, because as you can see, the light does sort of spray out the bottom there a bit, but I think the next narrowest size was 24 degrees, and I figured out that would just be a bit too narrow, mainly because, as you can probably see at the top of the tornado here, because of the beam angle coming off the lights, it sort of misses this top part of the tornado a bit. It's not a big deal, but prefer to be able to see, you know, as much of it as you can. But yeah, it's all painted up. I've got all the side panels on it, as you can see. The only thing I haven't actually done yet is put a lid on this container. It's not really a big deal because I do have to be able to let the air come out that fan anyway, but you sort of get a bit of splash of light on the roof when it's dark, and it's pretty, well, I mean, you can see through the fan straight to the roof. But it's not a big deal, you can't see it anyway from the ground. In terms of electronics though, this has actually ended up being quite a challenging project. One thing I overlooked, but I knew it would be an issue, is the Arduino stock PWM frequency is about, I think it's about 490 Hertz on one pin, well, on a few pins, and then 970 on some others. So I originally just tried PWMing that, the main radiator fan and also the 6 blowers on top of the pipes. But it turns out at that frequency, and also the fact that it's mounted in a box like that, is the fans were just extremely loud. I mean, it was almost unbearable to actually be in a room with it. It was just that loud. So you could turn up the Arduino PWM frequency. I think the highest you can go is about 32 kilohertz, but turns out the fans don't work at 32 kilohertz at all. So I've actually had to end up, I started out using a what's it called, an RC filter, so basically a capacitor and a resistor just forming a low pass filter, and that worked, but of course using resistors, they got a bit hot and they're inefficient. And it was also extremely stressful on the power supply and the switching MOSFETs. So I've actually decided to go with an LC filter instead. So that's quietened it all down quite significantly. Doesn't waste any power, nothing really gets warm, and the power supply is completely happy now. So, you know, I'm happy with how that turned out. But apart from that, the electronics is pretty simple, really. This is the remote here, nothing special. It's actually similar to one I had on the old machine. So you've got the updraft fan speed, the blower fan speed. This used to control the light brightness, but since I put the LED ones on there, they don't like PWM at all. So that doesn't do anything now. They're just fixed on full brightness. And this controls the speed of the fan that pumps the fog out. And this little switch here, I've got 4 ultrasonic foggers in it. So basically they're wired in banks of 2, so I can have it on 2 foggers, no foggers, or I can have 4 foggers. I mean, at full fan speed you sort of do need a bit of extra fog, so you can flick it up to 4 foggers on that. But just for normal use like it's doing now, usually 2 foggers is plenty. Of course, the more foggers you have going, the more water it uses, and you know, all that stuff. So that's just connected via just a standard Ethernet cable, which just plugs in the back down here. And then basically what we've got here is an LED. This is a RGB LED just behind some frosted acrylic, just to, you know, make it stand out a bit. This basically just gives, you know, changes colors and stuff depending on the status, so it can tell me when it's out of water, or, you know, if it's figured out that there's a leak or something going on. basically if the machine stops for any reason, it should be able to tell you why. And then on this side here, we've just got the power jack, just a little fused IEC switch socket there. One thing I wasn't planning on doing originally was actually, well, I was hoping to not have to put any back panels on it. So what I've decided to do is actually run the wires from the base unit to the top through one of these pipes. So they're actually going through this one here. So they basically just enter at the bottom of the pipe, come out at the top, and then there's a plug. So if you want to pull it apart, literally this top unit just lifts straight off here. It's just sitting on these flanges. You can unplug the cable, and then all of these pipes they're just sitting in end caps, so you can just pull all the pipes out of the base, and you basically end up with the base unit, the top unit, and then just all the pipes separately. So it is actually fairly portable. Doesn't take very long to set up at all. Yeah, I'm quite impressed with how it turned out actually, just how quiet it is and how well it actually generates a vortex. As you can see, even at quarter speed, right beside the air conditioner, it's still actually, working quite well. It's, yeah, like even at that speed, the vortex is still actually reasonably fast. But at full speed, you can put like an empty 2-litre soft drink bottle in there, and it'll knock it over with just the power of the vortex. So that's pretty cool. You can actually use it, to interact with objects. It's not just for looking at as well. One thing I was hoping to do is I've got this little, this little laser module. I think it does about 50 milliwatts, 520 nanometers or whatever it is. I've got a little line lens in there that I got today, and you've probably seen my last 2 videos showing the cross section of the tornado. Just plugging in this battery by one hand here. In a sec. That video was generated using my laser projector, and I was hoping to actually mount something in this permanently so I could sort of visualize what the cross section looks like. So this just projects a line like that basically, and if you get this and hold it about there, the camera's having a hard time focusing, but you can sort of see the cross section of the vortex there, which I reckon looks really cool. Especially in the dark, it looks, I mean, you can just sit there staring at it, it just looks that cool. So if I actually, the problem I've come across though is I don't think this is going to be powerful enough. So I'll put this on here, see if I can rotate this a bit, tighten the lens on there now, flip it around, like that. So from this angle here, basically right behind the laser, it is actually quite visible, but the problem is as soon as you stand up, it just totally disappears. So that's partially because these lights are just so bright, but you sort of need them, the most brightness you can get to be able to see the vortex well. But I think the only way to fix that would be, either mount the laser sort of more at head height or just a higher power laser. But that laser as it is 50 milliwatts out the front, so it's sort of already on the high side of what I'd want, exposed like that. If I put some back panels on it, it'd be alright because the laser wouldn't shoot out the sides like that. But yeah, I mean, it's just risky. But anyway, hopefully that video was not too bad. I know the camera's a bit shaky, but it's really difficult to actually film something like this with a tripod. Just because I have to move the camera around so much anyway. Yeah, really impressed with how it came out, and hopefully you've enjoyed watching the videos. I'll link in a link to the thread where I've sort of been keeping a build log of this. So if you're interested in seeing, more about the electronics and more about the internals and, what I've had to go through to actually build this, or if you want to build one yourself, have a look at that thread. Probably get a few ideas from it. But yeah, apart from that, thanks for watching, and I'll put the links in the description and probably stick a few images at the end of this video as well.